Okay, hey everyone, welcome to the Ways and Means Committee's Education Subcommittee meeting of the House of Delegates. I'm Chair Delegate Alonzo Washington here, and we are meeting today. We do have some of our advocates in. If all the advocates can make sure they, as you are already doing, you guys are amazing. You already have your videos off. We're ready to go. If we have any questions, we will ask you all. And you can turn your camera on. You can also, if there's any discussion, we are going to discuss a few bills today, but we're going to move others as well. I'll let folks know when we're discussing it and when we can make a verdict on some of these bills. Because we want to wait for Ms. Jones, Delegate Jones, to show up, let's start with HB 373, of which we discussed in our first subcommittee meeting. And we do have a few amendments, and I wanted to see where folks were on this bill before we moved it with the amendments. Alistair, you want to talk about the amendments that we have for the bill, and that's the bill on it's the Delegate Wilson's bill on education, child abuse, and sexual misconduct prevention, hiring emergent employees.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Vice Chair. I'm at the moment trying to send these amendments to your email, but the amendments for this bill would include, they make some just like technical changes of some stuff that was messed up by whoever staffed this committee last year when they did amendments to this bill. And they also, sorry, I got to try that joke every time.
We had to get rid of that guy.
They also include contracting agencies in the list of people who can use already completed employment information that was already collected as part of a background check into someone who has worked for a contracting agency and is going to work for another contracting agency. So this might be like a bus driver who worked for, say, Harford County, who is now going to work for Howard County. Because the bus driver worked for Harford County, they had to do this background check already. And I just wanted to give some more background about this bill. I think that the advocates maybe can step in if I'm wrong, or if someone else has better knowledge about this, but this is an additional check on top of already existing checks for the hiring of people. So all school personnel, I believe, have to already undergo a background check before the 2019 bill passed. They had to, and that includes some fingerprinting. Additionally, there are protections in the code that require, as soon as if a county board or a private school ever, or a contractor or subcontractors ever aware that they're employing someone who has a history of child sexual abuse, they have to immediately fire them. So that there already are existing protections. What the 2019 bill did was just create an employment background check history. And what this bill is doing is allowing for 60 days after, when someone is hired, after they've already submitted the information of who their past employees are, to give a little latitude, give some time to the school systems and the contractors to look into that background check while they take that person on. So hopefully that answers some questions that existed last time. And yeah.
Any questions? Delegate Rose. Delegate Rose, and then I'll go to Delegate Guyton.
It's probably the same.
Yeah, probably. So I was following the amendments as you were explaining them very well. My main question is, do we still have, with a brand new employee that maybe didn't work for another county, and I believe we mostly were concerned a bit, I think, about the buses last year, do we still have a window of 60 days where someone who hasn't had a background check, being supervised, but still having access to children without having any sort of background or fingerprint check being done, and just being videotaped, or have another adult in the bus?
Yes, that would still be the case for emergent employees who are, but emergent employees are only in the context of school bus drivers who work for the county. I'm not sure. I think the population of school bus drivers is a mix of people who work for the county and people who work for contractors, and that wouldn't apply to the contractors. They'd still have to undergo the full background check. So it would happen, but I'm not sure the degree to what size population we're talking about here.
And I ask any of the advocates if they have answer to this question. John Williams.
Mr. Vice Chairman, if I could, I would just encourage folks, where, words matter, to not refer to anything under House Bill 373 as a background check. It's rather complicated, but it's called, they're employer history reviews. So no bus driver is going to be driving a bus without a background check. The background check, the fingerprinting, all of that is done. What we used to be guilty of, hopefully are no longer guilty of, like a lot of employers, we confirm that a person worked for us between this date and that date. And then there's a lot of fear in HR departments about what you say that gets more specific for fear of a defamation claim or whatnot. I always like to emphasize there's another section of the law that's been in since the 80s, I believe, that clearly provides us immunity. And not just us, but HR directors are allowed to say very specific and incriminating things about previous employees, particularly around issues of child sex abuse and abuse issues. But these employer history reviews, and Delegate Wilson, we believe, was correct in saying for education for school system employees, public and private, there ought to be an additional employer history review where we go back in time and talk to previous employers about anything that gave any indication that this potential employee, this candidate, was, as I like to say in legal terms, a creep. Any evidence of grooming, something we didn't used to talk about at all, twirling of girls' hair, not to be gender specific about it, but
And Mr. Williams, that history review goes back 10 years, right? Is that correct?
Under this bill right now, that employer history review goes back forever. And that's one of the things that delays the completion, because you're talking, look, summer camps. I mean, so 10 years we feel is reasonable. And this committee felt it was reasonable last year. But these employer history reviews are kind of like icing on the cake. And let's say it could give you a bad taste in your mouth about whether you want to hire this person. But it is completely additional to the legal background check.
Background checks are done and fingerprints are done.
Yes.
Got it. Mary Pat, you want to say something?
Sure. I just wanted to answer the question specifically that Delegate Rose asked about if there would be a bus driver that hadn't gone through this process. And you did answer that question. If they were a bus driver that was employed by us, they would have had their background check and their fingerprint. They would just be the emergent employee based on this new criteria. And so you're not going to have a situation where you have someone on a bus unsupervised that hasn't had a background check.
Got it. Okay. Let's go to Delegate Guyton. You have a question?
Thank you. I think my questions have been answered.
Got it. Okay. So we have two amendments at the front of everybody right now. Allison, you went over both of those already, right?
For this bill, the First Amendment is just a technical thing. And then there's also an amendment for HB 465, I believe.
Oh, the amendment for HB 373 is just a technical amendment. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Got it, okay.
Yeah, there's a technical amendment, and then there's
The contractor amendment, right?
the contractor
That's the other
amendment.
one.
That's right.
Okay, which gives them a little bit of leeway if the person has gone through the process somewhere else in the state, or switching from one similar service to another, right? Like buses.
That's right.
Is that oversimplified or is that it?
That's correct, Delegate.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, I should have asked you before I.
Oh, good. How does people feel about the First Amendment, which is just a technical amendment, and then the other amendment is what Delegate Ebersol just tried to sum up for all of us?
I've moved both amendments as consent.
Got it. Okay, that's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Delegate Hartman, you're good? Are you opposed or you're?
No, good, thank you.
Okay, cool. All right, so you're coming close to the screen, man.
Checking
All
in
right.
button.
Got it. Okay, so on the bill as amended,
I move favorable.
is there a second?
Second.
Has been properly moved and seconded. All those in favor, is there any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed. Perfect. Let's move on to a fun bill first before we go into the next bill. So HB 629, this is a bill that we heard this week. It's a County Boards of Education student board member. It takes away their voting rights. Any discussion on this bill? Is there a motion?
I'd like to move unfavorable, Mr. Chair.
Second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. And is there any discussion? None. All those in favor say aye. Please turn your video on if you're going to vote, please. Delegate Smith, we need to see you. Thank you. I know you're probably eating. All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? One. Okay, so we got 1 for. Let's make a note of that, Alistair. That bill fails. Let's move on to HB 400. This is Delegate Boyce's bill. It's a bill that we passed out of this committee, I believe unanimously last year. I could be wrong about that. Am I wrong about that, Alistair?
I think it was unanimous. Yes, I think you're right.
Yeah, okay. Can you tell us a little bit about this bill? HB?
Yes, absolutely. So this bill would transfer the record of a child who, it would first require that a child who is detained in juvenile detention remains enrolled in their school until their case is disposed of. Then it would require that their educational records be transferred to MSDE, who is in charge of the juvenile detention facility education. And then it would require that their records be transferred out again and that they be re-enrolled in school when their case is ended. Additionally, if someone is enrolled in juvenile detention for 4 weeks or longer, they have to have an individualized education plan created for them.
Got it. Any discussion on this bill? Motion? Delegate Guyton, you have a question? Or motion?
In favor. No, my discussion was just, this is an amazing bill. So I'm favorable.
Okay.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Bill unanimously passes. I know I'm hopping around, guys, but I know some of us have to get to another meeting. So let's go to HB 465. This is Delegate Washington's bill. It's about the state superintendent of schools, qualifications, and Senate confirmation. Alice, you want to tell us about this bill and the amendment that we're proposing?
Yes, absolutely. So this bill is another one that we passed last year. The bill as drafted requires that a state superintendent be confirmed with the advice and consent of the Senate. It also requires that a current State Board of Education member cannot be nominated to be the state board, to be the state superintendent, and also that if someone served within the last year, they cannot be nominated. An amendment says that if they were previously a state Board of Education member, they cannot be nominated to be the state superintendent until their successor on the state board has completed a full term. And I believe the purpose of that is to just guarantee a little bit of inoculation between some remove between the state board that they served on, who's going to be approving of their nomination, and their nomination, to make sure there's no conflicts of interest there.
Got it. Any discussion on the amendment? Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Favorable.
Thank you for doing that twice, Delegate Ebersol. It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. Delegate Holmberger, Delegate Rose, Delegate Hartman, barely. All right. Okay. On the bill as amended, the amendment passes. On the bill as amended.
Move favorable, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
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 All opposed? 3 against, Holmberger, Hartman, and Rose. Okay, that bill passes. Okay, guys, I'm gonna have to end today because some of us have to get to another meeting. So I'm gonna hop off and then we'll discuss a lot of these bills next week. I do want us to get into some real discussions on these bills. So I think they're really important and things we should consider. moving forward. So thank you all for being here, and sorry we had to cut things short.
Mr. Chair, I apologize for being late. Can I go ahead and stay on with Alistair to record my votes?
Yeah, you can record your votes now. So we have HB, I'm not sure how that works. Can you just, if HB 400, you want to vote for that one?
I'm down on 370, the voting school board member.
Down
That's it.
meaning you like it, or down
Okay.
meaning you're voting against it?
Against the unfavorable.
Okay, HB 629, you're voting against the unfavorable. Got it.
There's a lot of negatives in that sentence.
Double
Okay.
negatives, yeah.
And are you
Triple
okay?
almost.
Are you okay? We passed also HB 373 with an amendment that would apply it to school bus contractors or school contractors in general, allow the records of school contractors to be transferred. The
Yeah.
whole committee was in favor. Okay.
Yep.
Okay, cool. Well, Delegate Holmberger, we got you. Thank you, everybody.
Thanks so
Mr.
much,
Vice
Mr.
Chair, do
Have a
you
good
know
day.
if we're not, Ways and Means is not beginning a hearing at 1:30 today?
They are, and they're going to go out of the hearing back to session.
So we're just gonna
So
get it,
it'll
we're gonna get
start-
30 minutes in or so and then run away.
Yeah, probably a little less, but yeah.
Yes, we're going to do a recess once the speaker says get to the floor.
And-
Okay.
And Delegate Ebersol, he's actually chair in the subcommittee.
The question was for him as a vice chair of the,
Okay.
so.
All right, folks. See you guys. Have a good day.
Yeah.
Bye.